Hi everyone from mountaincoach.co.uk, and today we're going to talk a little bit about what kit to bring on a hut-to-hut trip on one of our Swiss alpine summer adventures. And we're going to start with what will we be wearing day in, day out. So let's exclude everything that we need to bring for the evenings or for the night time and just think about what are we going to wear on our body. And we'll start from our feet and we'll work our way up to our top. I find that's a good way to make sure that I don't forget something by literally sequentially starting at my feet and working my way up the different parts of the body. So first off, on your feet then, very importantly, we need to have shoes that are capable of handling off-road terrain, so they've got to have good grips on them. Some people these days choose to just wear trail shoes along the lines of these Hokas. You can see they've got pretty sturdy grips on them. These are great. They dry very quickly if they get wet as well. Other times, some people prefer to have something with a bit of an ankle to them. Not so much to do with the ankle support. I think increasingly the belief is that it doesn't actually make a huge difference in terms of whether you're going to twist your ankle or not. No, they wear the ankle support because if there is quite a lot of water about, if it's been raining, if you have to go through little streams, or if there is some long grass or vegetation, then by having a bit of ankle support, especially if you have a little small gaiter on top of it, then it can help to keep your feet a little bit drier. These are Innovates, and they're incredibly light, so they are actually very much the same as a running shoe. It's just they have a slightly extended ankle. So lightweight is really what we're going for. It's not that we want to be super fast, but it's certainly a lot easier to move quickly and efficiently where we have lightweight stuff. And this is the summer we're talking about. So either something like these trail lightweight boots or a pair of trail running shoes. Now, what's most important is that you've worn them before, they're comfortable, they fit, and they're not going to give you blisters. So whatever you're going to wear, whether it's light or heavier, make sure that you're used to wearing it. So that's on our feet. In terms of socks, you want something quite thin, quite light, so sort of hiking sock, and you want to make sure that if your feet get wet, that they dry quite quickly. So that's why they need to be quite thin. So you'll obviously wear one pair, and for a 3-day trip, for example, I would only bring one other second spare pair, because very quickly your feet anyway are going to get quite hot and wet one way or another. So 2 sufficient for a 3-day trip. On our lower body then, you can either choose to go for trousers, which is typically what I do, some sort of hiking trouser like these ones. These are Arc'teryx ones, very, very light. And they help protect your legs from the sunshine, but also from any rocks that you might be scuffing yourself past. But they're great. They're very, very, very lightweight. If it's a really warm day and the conditions are really clear, the forecast is very good, you could also choose to wear shorts, or the most efficient would be trousers like this that have a zip just above the knee so that you can take off the lower part of the trouser and turn it into a short. Personally, I just bring a spare pair of very light shorts that don't take up very much room, because I find that once I've unzipped the lower part of the trousers, I never really get it back on again. So that's the lower part. Obviously you'll need some underwear. You want something that dries very quickly. This is my favourite pair, and these are of a technical nature, so if they do get hot and all the rest of it, they dry very, very quickly. And obviously you'll need to bring spare underwear as well. If you're going for a 3-day hut-to-hut trip, then I would bring an additional 2 pairs of underwear. On our torso, we want a base layer that's super thin, that is wicking, that is not made of cotton. And I choose this top from Mammoth, and it's made out of polyester and it's treated in various ways. Now the advantage is it's super light, it's super high wicking, and it's got a nice zip so I can zip it down quite low. The only downside to it is it's not as odor free as, for example, a merino type top would be. I love merino, I have lots of merino tops, and in fact I'll sleep in a merino top, but I find that merino, if you're in the summer and if it's going to be really hot, it can get a little bit too hot for me. I find that the technical items like this control the temperature a little bit more. So now, imagine that it is the early morning. It tends to be a bit chilly in the morning when we're starting out, so that's fine. You've got all the gear on that I've just described. But just to take the edge off, it might be enough that you also wear a vest like this. Now this is a super thin technical material. It's basically a windbreaker. That's all it's going to do. A little bit of insulation, but mainly windbreaking. But I find that this on top of this, if we're moving, is sufficient. However, if you find it's going to be a little bit cold in the mornings, or we're walking on the flat and we're not walking very quickly, or you're hanging around waiting for people, then actually what you will also wear, or instead of the vest, is a very thin artificial down jacket. So this is really very, very thin. It's not thick at all. It's very, very light, but it certainly provides a decent amount of warmth. This is my kind of go-to jacket. And during the day, as we, for example, summit at a high altitude, let's say 3,000 meters, where it's going to be pretty cold and it's windy, I will reach for this and put it on. It'll keep me warm. You know, I can also then put this little thin wind-stopping vest on top of it if I really need to. And that's probably sufficient and all I will need to wear during the day, apart from what goes on my head. Very importantly, we need some sunglasses. These need to be a minimum Cat 3 sunglasses. And then on our head, we've got options. We can either wear a baseball style cap. Some wear ones that have a tail to them on the back to protect the neck. Obviously you need to keep an eye on that, on the neck. Alternatively, you could wear something like this trekking sun hat. And these are very good because they have a 360-degree brim. So that's what we're actually all going to be wearing on our body. Let's talk now a little bit about what we're going to have in reserve for bad weather. Right, let's talk about another scenario in the Alps, which could certainly occur, and that is that we get bad weather. And not only do we get bad weather, but we've also had to stop for some reason. It could be that somebody's got to sort out their blisters. It could be that somebody has twisted their ankle. It could be for a variety of reasons. But what we want to do is make sure that we can stay dry and make sure that we can stay warm. So, absolutely critical of importance is that we have in our bag a pair of waterproof trousers. They don't have to be Gore-Tex, they just have to be waterproof. And actually the chances are we won't need them on a 3-day trip, but it's possible that we will. We could just have a period where there's a bit of rain and we need to put them on. So we definitely, it's mandatory, all have to have waterproof trousers. Equally, we need something for the top half of our body. So this is a Gore-Tex jacket. Again, it doesn't have to be Gore-Tex, but Gore-Tex is a great material and there are lots of alternatives out there though that you can look at. Now, if we're sitting around and there's strong wind, and especially then if there's been a bit of rain as well, there's a chance that our body temperature is going to cool and we need just something a little bit extra to keep us warm in addition to what we've already discussed that we would be wearing. And for that, I like to bring a down jacket. So this is a goose down jacket, but it bundles up into a little bag to be about the size of my fist, and it weighs very, very little. So I always keep that in my bag. In reality, I only really get it out in the evenings if I want to have a glass of wine, watching the sunset, and it gets a little bit chilly when you're at altitude, and so that's when I typically tend to wear this. So for comfort reasons, but also to make sure that in the event that there's an emergency or something like that, we need to keep warm, you need something like a down jacket there. And then of course for your head, where we lose a lot of heat, we need a beanie. We need a hat like this that we can put on either when we're summiting as well, it's quite comfortable, or in the case that we are stationary and the weather has turned. So that's the absolutely essential kit that's going to help keep us safe. All right, let's talk a little bit about other things that we're going to have in our rucksacks, which are equally important because actually we want to enjoy ourselves and we want to be comfortable in the evenings and have a good time overall. That's what it's all about. So, evening attire at the hut. Well, it is up to you, but just keep in mind you want to keep light. So you do not want to be bringing outfits that are going to wear a lot or be super bulky. What I tend to wear, and ignore the colours, it's up to you, but in the evenings, both to sleep in and actually to have dinner in inside in the hut, is a pair of leggings. Obviously, they roll up to being absolutely tiny. I'm just using some skins here, but you could also use the sorts of leggings that you wear when you're skiing, the sort of softer material, which is a little bit more loose on the body, something like that. So base layer pants, basically base layer trousers that you would wear when you were skiing would be fine as well. I find they get a little bit warm though, so skins are great. Then I've got a pair of socks, because I would have been wearing one pair of socks and then I've got this sort of backup pair. I'm only going to bring 2 pairs of socks, as I said, over the 3 days. I've got spare underwear. I've got 2 pairs of spare underwear, technical by nature, so that they dry very quickly. And I've got a pair of gloves as well. These are quite thin, but they'd be just enough to take the edge off, either in the evening if I was outside, if it got a bit chilly, or when we're in a situation where the weather's turned and we're stationary, we're not moving. It's good to have a pair of gloves as well. I mentioned earlier, I keep a pair of shorts as well as backup, just in case the weather is super hot and I want to have them available to me. And then finally, I have a merino wool t-shirt. You can have a long sleeve top or a t-shirt. Merino wool is very good. It could also be a technical top, but this is what I'm going to wear in the evening with my leggings, and that's my evening attire. We dress for dinner in the Alps, and that's really all you need in terms of other clothing items inside your rucksack. Okay, let's talk a little bit about other equipment or special items that we need to take with us if we're going to get through the week. First off, a pair of trekking poles. I really would recommend that you bring them. They should not be carbon ones. Carbon ones tend to snap very easily. They tend to snap at the handle when you turn them at an angle. I've broken many pairs while doing ultra races in the Alps. So if I'm trekking and I want to be able to have a good sturdy pair, then I just get some Leckies. There are lots of other brands like Black Diamond as well. And just a medium price pair of those sorts of brands will be perfectly sufficient. They really do take out a lot of the effort when you are walking uphill. They're not so much for down, they're really mainly for walking uphill. Then of course, completely essential, we've got 2 litres of water. So Nalgene is a good brand of water bottle, that's what I'm using here, and I also wrapped some gaffer tape and some electrical tape around one of them as well, which you can use for repairs, whether it's your shoe or an item of clothing or rucksack or something else. Then in terms of electrical items, a power bank. Really handy. You don't need to bring a massive one, just bring a small one, but just in case you run low. You will be able to charge phones in the Swiss Alps huts, but it's good to have a backup of a power bank as well. Head torch. You might need a head torch for getting up in the middle of the night, but equally we need it for safety reasons, in case if there was some sort of catastrophic incident and we were still out and it was night, then obviously having a head torch so that emergency services could see us and that we could see what we were doing would be very important as well. Important to have a spare pair or a spare set of batteries for your head torch as well. Charging cables, whether that's for your iPhone, which obviously I'm using to film this, but there would be an iPhone here as well, or whether it's your chargers for your power bank or head torch. You need to think about chargers. And of course we're in Switzerland, so we need an adapter as well, a plug adapter. And note that the Swiss system is slightly different to the French system. Although the 2 prongs are of similar size, the way that it inserts into the socket is different in Switzerland, so watch out for that. So that's on the electrical side. In terms of other items, well, we need to be able to remain hygienic and clean. So this is my wash bag. It's in a waterproof bag, as everything should be, and it contains, for instance, my toothbrush, a small amount of shower gel that I can use for hair, face, body, whatever, a small amount of moisturiser, which can be good after you've been in the sun all day. I have sun cream inside it. I have a tiny amount of Vaseline, which for example can be good if you've got chapped lips, which happens a lot to a lot of people. And you would also keep, if you were asthmatic, for example, you might choose to keep an inhaler in here or any medication that you were on. I always bring a first aid kit as the guide, but for you, you might have personal medication that you need to think about. The other thing that you bring is some spare loo paper. You never know when you might need it. and that could be out on the mountain, or depending on the sort of hut you were in, it might be that you get caught short without paper in there as well. Although generally speaking in Switzerland that's unlikely to happen in the huts, which are very high end. It's important that we clean up after ourselves and we leave no trace when we're in the mountains. So I bring a small pack of doggy poo bags. I might need to put the used loo paper in them if I got caught short in the hills. But also, just if we've had lunch and we've got sticky wrappers and so forth, having these poo bags is incredibly helpful. Then, in terms of our administration, what I've got in here is my insurance card with all of my insurance details. I've also got cash, so I've got about 100 or so Swiss francs. And then, of course, I need my identification documents, which is, in this case, a passport. Finally, I have got a very small travel towel, so it weighs nothing. You could probably get away with half this size as well. I mean, this is quite a big one. It's that big. You certainly do not need to go any bigger than that. And all of that will be stored in a rucksack. And in terms of the size of rucksack that you want to go for, we're talking about 30, maximum 35 litres. You do not need any more in order to be able to store everything that we've just gone through. Remember, we're wearing a lot of the gear ourselves, so there's actually not that much to fit in here. And it's so important that we stay light on the mountain. Although it's tempting to bring extra gear for reasons of security, often it's that extra weight that can lead to security issues arising in the first place. So there are certain items like the waterproofing we need to have, but basically otherwise we want to keep things very, very light as much as we can. Give me some